When nothing works, what should you really do? Most people push harder, try more techniques, force the outcome. But that's exactly why they stay stuck. Because the universe doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to alignment. It doesn't listen to your words. It reflects your energy. You say you want change, but inside you're still broadcasting fear, frustration, and doubt. You visualize success, but you feel resistance. You speak affirmations, but your body speaks desperation. Here's the truth. The universe doesn't obey what you ask. It mirrors who you are. And when your inner state is misaligned, no strategy will save you. Not the vision board, not the rituals, not the endless effort. This video is not about trying harder. It's about doing the only thing that actually works. Tuning your frequency, resetting your story, becoming the version of you who no longer begs for change because he already lives it. Inside, we'll break down the hidden principles behind manifestation, Stoic philosophy, and energy alignment. You'll learn why silence is more powerful than struggle, why letting go unlocks what chasing never will, why knowing always beats hoping. This isn't motivational fluff, it's practical transformation. You're not alone. Many have stood exactly where you are, tired, disillusioned, ready to quit. But that moment, that's the threshold. Cross it the right way, and everything shifts. So stay with me. What comes next will change the way you see reality forever. 1. The universe responds to frequency, not words. You said all the right things. You affirmed. You visualized. You declared what you wanted out loud every morning. But nothing changed, because the universe doesn't respond to words. It responds to energy. That's the part no one told you. You don't receive what you say you want. You receive what your vibration tells the universe you expect. This isn't abstract, it's precise. You might repeat, "I am abundant," but if deep down you feel anxious, unsure, undeserving, then that's what you broadcast. You might whisper, "I am love," but if your heart is filled with fear, your signal is clear. You're still lacking. The language of reality is not spoken, it is emitted. It's not your voice the universe listens to, it's your frequency. That's why you feel stuck. That's why effort seems wasted. Because action taken from the wrong energy doesn't multiply, it fragments. You can't force the door open when your energy keeps it shut. You can't invite success while carrying the frequency of desperation. That's not Stoicism. That's delusion dressed as discipline. Stoicism teaches restraint, not in the name of denial, but in the pursuit of clarity. A Stoic doesn't beg the world to shift. He aligns himself so well with truth that the world begins to bend around him. He doesn't chase, he becomes. Because he understands this law, external chaos cannot move a man whose inner frequency remains unshaken. When Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, war, and death, he didn't ask for ease. He adjusted his inner state. When Epictetus lost his freedom, he didn't fight to control others. He mastered the one thing he could control, himself. Their strength didn't come from shouting into the wind. It came from standing still and letting the wind pass. That is vibration in motion. That is control without force. That is power without noise. The modern mind is addicted to doing. It mistakes movement for momentum, noise for influence. But the Stoic knows everything external is neutral until your perception gives it charge. You don't have to change the world. You have to change how your energy speaks to it. If your energy says, "I am ready," the opportunity appears. If it says, "I am waiting," life keeps you waiting. If it screams, "I need," the universe replies with, "You lack." Energy never lies, and it always leads. So what do you do when nothing works? You pause. You silence the inner panic. You stop throwing louder words at a quiet universe. You return to presence. You observe your state, and then you shift. Not by pretending, not by overcompensating, but by remembering who you were before fear told you to beg. Start here. Sit still. Breathe into the place that feels most empty. Let yourself feel the truth behind your wanting. What are you trying to fix by forcing the outcome? What part of you still believes that if you don't push, you don't receive? See it, name it, then let it go. Because alignment doesn't come from demand, it comes from embodiment. The man who walks as if he already carries what he desires, he doesn't need to convince the universe. His energy already confirms it, and the universe obeys. You are not being tested, you are being tuned. What you call delay is not punishment, it's precision. Life is asking, have you become the frequency of what you're asking for? If not, you will not receive it. Not because it's denied, but because energetically you're not compatible. Raise your frequency, not by doing more, but by becoming still enough to transmit the right signal. That's the shift. That's the pivot when nothing works. Stop speaking, start resonating. The most powerful energy in the world doesn't shout. It vibrates with quiet certainty, be that, and the universe won't just listen, it will respond. 2. Feeling is the true prayer. Words may speak to the mind, but feeling speaks to reality. You can chant affirmations 1,000 times, but if your body doesn't believe them, they fade into silence. Because in the end, it's not what you say, it's what you feel that moves the universe. That's why so many try to manifest change with scripts and routines, only to be met with silence. They speak abundance, but feel scarcity. They speak love, but carry fear. And energy does not follow your voice, it follows your vibration. This is not a metaphor, it's a frequency. Emotion is energy in motion. It's the current your thoughts ride on. Your words may aim forward, but your feelings might be anchored in the past. If your inner world contradicts your outer requests, nothing shifts. The Stoics knew this before science confirmed it. They understood that inner congruence, not loud desire, was the path to power. Seneca didn't rely on ritual. He relied on clarity, on stillness, on embodying the virtue he sought, not just wishing for it. So if you've ever asked, prayed, visualized, and still found yourself in the same place, look deeper. What are you actually feeling when you ask? Are you broadcasting need, anxiety, tension? Are you disguising fear as faith? Because the universe doesn't speak English, it speaks frequency. If you feel empty while asking for more, your emptiness becomes the signal, and that's what echoes back. This is where Stoicism becomes more than a philosophy. It becomes your anchor. A Stoic trains his emotions the way a warrior trains his hands, not to suppress, but to direct. He doesn't resist emotion, he refines it, he feels it fully without drowning in it. And when the time comes to act, he does so not from impulse, but from presence, from alignment. That's the core of manifestation through feeling. You become so rooted in your future self, so immersed in the feeling of already, that you stop seeking and start embodying. Think of the last time you truly knew something was yours before it happened. A job, a relationship, a victory. You didn't hope, you didn't beg, you felt it as if it had already taken shape. And when it finally arrived, you weren't surprised. You were simply aligned. That's the feeling you need to summon. Not someday, but now. And that's what shifts everything. The reticular activating system in your brain begins filtering reality through your belief. Suddenly, patterns emerge. Paths open. You see what you once missed, not because life changed, but because you did. This shift doesn't come from effort, it comes from stillness. The deepest feelings are quiet. They don't shout, they settle into your bones, into your breath, into the way you walk into a room. You can't fake it, you have to live it. And the only way to live it is to stop searching for proof and start choosing alignment. It begins the moment you stop trying to force emotion and simply allow it. Sit with your desire, not as something far away, but as something within. Ask yourself, if this were already true, how would I breathe right now? How would I stand? How would I think, speak, and respond? That's the portal, not the words, the feeling. This is why your current state matters more than your goals. Why your daily energy is more powerful than your monthly vision board, because reality doesn't follow plans. It follows presence. The more you embody the end, the faster it begins. So when nothing works, stop chasing the words, sit with the truth. Breathe into the version of yourself who already has what you desire. Let the feeling fill your system. Let it shape your posture, your silence, your rhythm, and then walk into the world as if it's already done. Because when feeling becomes your prayer, the universe doesn't just hear it, it moves with it, quietly, precisely, unfailingly. 3. Belief versus knowing. From hope to certainty. Hope carries doubt. Knowing doesn't flinch. That's the difference between waiting for your life to change and becoming the change before it arrives. Most people live in a cycle of hoping it'll get better, hoping the opportunity will come, hoping the universe will finally respond. But when your mind sends out hope, what it's really saying is, I don't have it yet. And the universe, ever precise, mirrors that state back to you. Knowing is different. Knowing is silent, unshaken. It doesn't check the clock, it doesn't look for signs, it moves forward like the sun rising. It doesn't need permission. That kind of certainty isn't loud, it's embodied. It lives in your posture, your voice, your decisions. When you know, your world bends, not because you force it, but because you no longer stand in your own way. This is the pivot point between frustration and flow. And it's where most people fail, because deep down, they don't believe what they're saying. They affirm success while expecting disappointment. They write goals but doubt their worth. They take action, but from the wrong identity. You can't fake certainty, not to the universe, not to your own body, because belief might sound convincing, but your energy always reveals what you truly expect. That's where I watched Ryan stay stuck for years. He was smart, driven, good at what he did. He built a business that looked successful on the outside, but inside he never let go of the fear that it would all collapse. Every new client came with anxiety. Every opportunity felt like something to be lost. He worked harder than anyone I knew. But it wasn't effort that held him back. It was doubt. Quiet, persistent, buried under positive words, but still there. And because that doubt was never addressed, it shaped everything. I remember the day he called me after losing a major deal. His voice wasn't angry. It was tired. He said, "I don't get it. I'm doing everything right. I meditate, I visualize, I even journal in the morning, but it's like something keeps blocking me." I told him, "It's not what you're doing. It's what you still don't believe. You're acting like someone who wants success. You need to start moving like someone who already has it." Something shifted after that call. He stopped explaining himself to everyone, stopped trying to prove he was worthy. He began walking into meetings without needing a yes. He changed the way he spoke, not by adding power, but by dropping all the subtle desperation, and people felt it. Within weeks, his business turned. Clients returned. Deals that were stuck began to move. Because he did. Stoicism says you must align with what is real, not what you wish was real. Marcus Aurelius didn't tell himself everything would be okay. He reminded himself that he could handle anything. That's knowing. It's not optimism. It's ownership. And in manifestation, it's everything. You want to shift your life? Start with what you know. Not what you hope for, not what you force yourself to repeat, but what you feel in your bones. If what you know today is rooted in lack, rewrite it, not with empty mantras, but with presence, with proof. Move through your day as if what you asked for is already yours. Stop looking for signs. Be the sign. Stop chasing evidence. Walk like you already carry it. This kind of inner certainty sends out a signal far more powerful than any technique. It collapses resistance. It sharpens decisions. It silences doubt. And most importantly, it speaks the only language the universe truly understands: identity. Because when you know who you are, you don't ask for permission. You step forward, and reality follows. Certainty is not arrogance, it's clarity. It's not loud, it's steady. And when it replaces belief, transformation is no longer a possibility, it becomes inevitable. 4. The universe reflects your inner state. You're not attracting what you want, you're attracting what you are. That's the truth most people resist, because it means taking full responsibility, not for what happens outside, but for what's vibrating inside. Your results don't lie. They mirror your beliefs. They echo your emotional state. They return your inner frequency with precise indifference. The universe isn't punishing you. It's just playing your tune back to you, note for note. That's why change doesn't come from willpower alone. You can hustle every day. You can speak like you've made it. But if your internal dialogue whispers fear, your reality will reflect hesitation. If you act confident while carrying the energy of doubt, life responds to the doubt, not the mask. There's no fooling this mirror, it's tuned to truth. In Stoic philosophy, this reflection isn't mystical, it's principle. The external world to a Stoic is a canvas painted by the colors of your own mind. Epictetus wrote, "It's not events that disturb us, but our view of them." The modern version, it's not life that limits you, it's your state. What you see is filtered through what you are. Shift the filter, and the entire picture changes. But how? Not by force, not by begging reality to give you a break. The Stoic path is inner alignment. It's standing still long enough to see where you're off center. If your life keeps giving you the same patterns, loss, rejection, scarcity, it's not just bad luck, it's your signal. Life is showing you your frequency and form. You're not cursed, you're being shown the truth. You want peace? Then stop vibrating with chaos. You want abundance? Then stop moving from lack. You want love? Then stop chasing it with a heart full of fear. That's not philosophy, that's mechanics. You can't receive while broadcasting the opposite, and most people are doing it every day without knowing. They affirm worthiness while feeling invisible. They claim goals while expecting failure. They pray for success while holding a story of "I'm not enough" on repeat. And the mirror reflects back what's constant, not what's temporarily spoken. To live differently, you must become different. And not tomorrow. Now. That's where awareness becomes your weapon. Because once you notice the signal you've been sending, you can shift it. You can interrupt the cycle. You can rewrite the internal script and replace the background noise with something real. Not something forced, but something chosen. You don't become abundance by speaking about it. You become it by walking like it, by thinking like it, by choosing actions that match it, even when no one's watching, especially then. Stoicism doesn't promise that change comes fast, but it guarantees that it comes from within. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still wrote daily reminders to keep his mind clean, his energy grounded, his perception aligned. He wasn't trying to change the outer world. He was mastering the only world that ever mattered, his own. That's why he didn't crumble under pressure. He didn't react from fear. He held his center, and the empire followed. You don't need to force your life into shape. You need to shape the state you live from, and then reality can catch up. Start by observing, not what you want, but what you feel most often. That's your true signal. That's the frequency you live on. Shift that, and your life begins to pivot, slowly at first, then suddenly. This is not magic, it's resonance. And it only asks one thing: consistency. Not perfection, not effort, just a steady return to your center every time you slip. Like a Stoic stepping back into presence after being pulled by emotion. Like a tuning fork that hums truer every time you strike it. The more you return to alignment, the clearer the reflection becomes. Because the universe never lies. It reflects. It mirrors your inner world with ruthless accuracy, not to punish you, but to free you. The mirror doesn't show what you hope, it shows what you believe. Change the belief, and you change the reflection, forever. 5. Struggle keeps you trapped. The paradox of effort. The harder you try, the further it slips. That's the paradox. When effort turns into tension, struggle becomes your identity, and the universe responds not with reward, but resistance. Most people live on a battlefield with their own desires. They fight for results, grind for outcomes, chase goals with clenched fists. But manifestation isn't a war, it's a mirror. And when you approach it with force, all it can reflect is conflict. Struggle signals misalignment. It means your action is no longer flowing from clarity, but from lack. The moment you start pushing, you've left presence. You're no longer creating, you're compensating. That's why so many burn out while doing all the right things. They read the books, follow the steps, repeat the affirmations, yet still feel stuck. Because underneath the rituals lives a frequency of fear. If I don't push, I'll be left behind. That fear is the very thing blocking the flow. Stoicism calls for something sharper than effort, discernment. Not every action is strength. Not every hustle is courage. The Stoic doesn't confuse motion with progress. He chooses what's essential and cuts what isn't. He doesn't sprint blindly toward outcomes. He aligns with his inner peace, then moves with quiet precision. Because he knows this truth, frantic action rooted in desperation will never lead to peace. It only reinforces chaos. The brain in survival mode can't see opportunity. It filters life through urgency and threat. Cortisol spikes, perception narrows, you miss the very openings that presence would reveal. That's why true progress requires stillness, not laziness, clarity. You step back, you check your state, you don't act because you must, you act because you're ready, because you've returned to center. This applies to everything: relationships, money, career, health. The more you chase, the more you affirm its absence. The more you grip, the more it slips. But when you release the tension, you create space. You breathe again, you align again, you move, not out of need, but out of truth. There's a sharp difference between action and resistance, between doing from faith and doing from fear. The Stoics never said, do nothing. They said, act in accordance with nature. That means aligned action, not anxious action. It means letting go of the outcome while giving your best in the process. It means trading desperation for discipline, worry for wisdom. Try this. Next time you feel the urge to force, pause. Ask yourself, am I moving from peace or from panic? That one question will reveal everything. If you're honest, you'll know when you've left your center. You'll feel the tightness in your body, the pressure in your thoughts. That's the signal. That's the moment to stop, breathe, and realign. Not forever, just long enough to shift the frequency. Some of the greatest breakthroughs come not when you try harder, but when you surrender the grip. Not giving up, but letting go of control. The Stoic knows that control is illusion. What you control is your effort, your focus, your intention, not the result. The tighter you hold the outcome, the more you delay it. But the moment you let it breathe, it begins to move. Look at nature. Rivers don't rush, trees don't strain. The sun doesn't scream to rise. They align with their season, their rhythm, their state, and everything unfolds without force. You are no different. You don't need to wrestle your dreams into existence. You need to stop resisting your current moment. Because resistance is not a strategy, it's a signal you're out of sync. So what should you do when nothing works? Stop fighting. Drop the war inside your chest. Let silence return, and from that still place, act again. But this time from clarity, from conviction, from alignment. Because that's the place where struggle ends and flow begins. That's the paradox. That's the power. Desperation is disguise, the mask of fake positivity. Desperation hides well. It wears the mask of motivation. It looks like discipline, sounds like certainty, but underneath it's fear trying to dress itself in progress. Most people don't realize it. They wake up early, write affirmations, follow routines, but the energy behind their actions is not calm, it's frantic, not grounded, but panicked. That's the problem. Because what you pretend on the surface cannot override what your energy quietly repeats beneath. When you act from desperation, no matter how polished it looks, the universe reads your truth. That's why your effort might feel exhausting instead of expansive. Why you can be busy, but not aligned. Desperate energy creates resistance, it clings, it needs, it shouts, and nothing flows towards something that's grasping for control. The more you try to force your desires into form, the more you affirm you don't truly believe they're yours. That's not manifestation. That's self-sabotage. Stoic philosophy never taught to suppress desire. It taught to master attachment. A Stoic knows desire isn't the enemy, dependence is. When your peace hinges on an outcome, you've already lost control. That's when action becomes addiction. That's when the doing becomes a shield against deeper doubt. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, not to sound wise, but to stay honest. To peel back every layer of illusion. That's what you must do too. Not perform positivity, but confront your real motives. I knew a man named John who lived in this exact illusion. He was sharp, articulate, always saying the right things. He built a reputation around being the guy who gets it done. Every day he posted about mindset, productivity, abundance. But when we sat down in private, the truth leaked through. His hands wouldn't stop moving. His eyes darted. He couldn't sit still. I asked him, what would happen if you stopped trying for a week? He smiled. Then he said, I'm scared everything would fall apart. That was it. He wasn't building from belief. He was building from fear of collapse. His schedule was packed, but his spirit was hollow. He used spiritual language like armor. He repeated affirmations like spells, but none of it worked. Because he wasn't living them, he was trying to convince himself. He didn't need another goal. He needed silence. He needed to face the root of his constant motion, the belief that who he was wasn't enough without results. That belief was the real vibration. That belief was what kept reality from shifting. When he finally stopped, truly stopped, everything changed. He let the noise die down. He faced the fear he'd buried under all his rituals. He didn't lose everything. He found himself. And from that place, without panic, without pretending, opportunities began to appear. The right people called. The right deals formed. Not because he worked harder, but because he stopped resisting his own energy. You see, the Stoic path isn't about looking unshaken. It's about becoming unshaken. That's why desperation, even when dressed in spiritual language, must be dismantled. You can't build lasting peace on top of inner war. You must sit with the part of you that's afraid nothing will come unless you chase it. That's the wound. And healing begins when you stop speaking over it and start listening to it. Ask yourself, right now, what am I trying to prove? If your answer isn't quiet confidence, you've found your friction. If your actions are built to mask doubt, they will never create clarity. The Stoics weren't immune to emotion. They just refused to be manipulated by it. That's your work, not to shout louder, but to feel deeper, not to convince others, but to stop lying to yourself. When your actions flow from truth, not from fear, you don't need to over-explain. Your presence becomes enough. The vibration you emit carries further than anything you post or say. So stop hiding behind effort. Stop performing positivity. Strip it all back. Sit with the stillness. From that space, you'll act differently. You'll speak slower. You'll stop reaching, and you'll start receiving. Desperation pretends, but truth doesn't need performance. And once you drop the disguise, reality no longer needs to test you. It begins to respond instantly. 7. The key is within. Silence over strategy. Not every answer lives in action. Some answers only rise in silence. Most people don't understand this. They think the more strategies they collect, the faster they'll shift their lives. So they chase, they consume, they overload their mind with techniques, hoping one will finally click. But there's a truth that strategy cannot replace. Your clearest answers never scream, they whisper, and only stillness lets you hear them. When your mind is loud, your energy fragments. It jumps between timelines, doubts, options. You think you're progressing, but inside, you're scattering your presence. Noise kills alignment. That's why manifestation without clarity collapses. You can't access your future self while being consumed by mental static. You can't embody peace while feeding the addiction of control. And the harder you chase, the more you confirm one subtle belief. I don't trust myself yet. The Stoics knew the danger of a restless mind. They didn't just seek knowledge, they sought mastery over their attention. Marcus Aurelius journaled daily, not for content, but for calibration. He returned to stillness, not because it was easy, but because it was the only place truth could be found. Epictetus didn't teach people how to get more. He taught them how to return to what they already had. A mind untouched by panic, a will untouched by chaos. They didn't need manifestation rituals. They lived from presence, from principle, from power. You don't need more information. You need more integration. That happens when you stop reacting, when you stop reaching, when you quiet the mind long enough to reconnect with what already is. Inside you exists a level of clarity that no book, coach, or method can deliver. It's not something you earn. It's something you remember. And the remembering begins the moment you turn inward without expectation. The science echoes the same. Your brain, in its most creative and intuitive state, drops into alpha and theta waves, the rhythms of silence, not stress. It's in those states that new insight emerges, that old patterns dissolve. The subconscious opens, and the universal field becomes accessible. But that door doesn't respond to noise. It responds to stillness. And until you enter that space, your best ideas will always be drowned out by distraction. This is why so many powerful shifts happen after surrender. Not because surrender is weak, but because surrender clears the clutter. It returns you to awareness. It invites a reset. The universe, like a tuning fork, cannot harmonize with chaos. But the moment you become still, it hears you again, and you begin to hear it. That's the shift. That's the power of going quiet on purpose. So the question becomes, when was the last time you sat with yourself without trying to fix anything? No goal, no timeline, just presence. That's where the real answers hide. That's where the energy realigns. You don't attract what you understand, you attract what you embody. And embodiment begins where thinking ends. There's a sacred point between thought and form, a space where intention rests before it moves. That space is you. When your mind aligns with your breath, when your attention softens without falling asleep, you step into that field. The Stoics called it reason. Modern science might call it coherence. It doesn't matter what label you use. What matters is that from this space, everything flows. So instead of adding more steps, subtract the noise. Instead of searching for the next answer, return to the quiet space inside that already knows. The version of you who has already become what you seek doesn't live in fear. He lives in knowing. He walks from stillness. And you access him, not by thinking harder, but by listening deeper. Because in the end, manifestation doesn't begin with action. It begins with alignment. And alignment begins in silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of power. the kind that doesn't need to prove, the kind that already is. So stop strategizing, sit down, close your eyes, and meet the version of yourself that's been waiting, not to be created, but to be remembered. That's where everything you want starts to come back, not through noise, but through stillness that finally says, I am here. 8. Awareness is the true power. Subtle signs speak louder. The universe is always speaking. The problem is, most people are too loud to hear it. They chase signs, beg for clarity, ask for confirmation, yet miss the whispers woven into their everyday life. Because awareness isn't just passive observation, it's precision. It's a skill. And in a world obsessed with doing, very few know how to simply notice. When you move through life with presence, reality starts revealing patterns. Not grand gestures, not fireworks, but tiny shifts. Repeated numbers, delayed meetings, unexpected comments from strangers. An emotion that rises at the same moment every day. These aren't coincidences. They're code, and awareness is how you decode them. In Stoic thought, awareness is everything. It's the gatekeeper between reaction and response. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask the gods for signs. He studied the contents of his own mind. He questioned his assumptions. He watched his impulses. He became the observer before becoming the decision-maker. That's why Stoics seem calm in chaos. Not because they ignore emotion, but because they see through it. They read the moment, not just react to it. When you're aware, you stop rushing. You pause, you sense. You understand that nothing is random if you're paying close enough attention. The right book falls off a shelf. A conversation echoes your private thought. An unexpected delay forces you to meet someone who changes your direction. These moments don't shout. They wait for you to be still enough to see them. And when you do, you realize life isn't resisting you. It's guiding you. I saw this unfold with someone I know, Elise. She was at a breaking point. A difficult divorce, career uncertainty, no clear path forward. She tried to fix it all with strategy, therapy, even travel. But the more she searched, the more lost she felt. One afternoon, sitting at a train station, she told me she suddenly became quiet. Not out of peace, out of exhaustion. And in that stillness, a stranger next to her began humming an old song her mother used to sing, the very phrase she needed to hear. It cracked her open. That moment didn't solve everything, but it gave her something she hadn't felt in years: alignment. A sense that maybe she wasn't lost, just too loud to hear the way. After that, she stopped forcing answers. She slowed down. She journaled not to control thoughts, but to witness them. And the more aware she became, the more the world responded. A job opportunity came from a connection she'd forgotten. Her health improved, not from obsession, but from listening to her body. She didn't chase signs, she saw them. You don't need the universe to scream at you. You need to quiet your mind. The signs are already there. Awareness is what turns randomness into revelation. It turns frustration into direction. It turns stillness into power. And power rooted in awareness is unshakable. Because now, you're not waiting for life to give you clarity. You're living in a way that attracts it. So slow down. Watch what repeats. Watch who returns. Watch how you feel in certain places, with certain people, doing certain things. That's your compass. And it's been there the whole time. The Stoics didn't wait for omens. They read their own minds like scripture. You can do the same. The next time something delays you, ask what it's protecting you from. The next time something upsets you, ask what wound it touched. That's awareness in practice, not New Age fluff. Stoic discipline. This isn't about paranoia. It's about presence. You don't obsess over meaning. You simply stay open enough to see when something is trying to speak to you. And often the most important messages come in silence, in timing, in pattern. And when you develop the eye for it, you start to walk through life not as a victim of chaos, but as a reader of deeper order. You don't need to control everything when you start noticing everything. That's the shift. That's where calm returns. Because the moment you see life not as random but as intelligent, you stop fighting it, and you begin to walk with it, step for step, sign by sign, in stillness, with clarity and without fear. 9. Your life is shaped by the story you tell yourself. Every day you write a script. You may not realize it, but it runs quietly in the background of your thoughts, shaping your choices, your reactions, your expectations. It's the story of who you think you are, and it controls more than you want to admit. Not because it's true, but because you believe it. That belief becomes your vibration, and that vibration becomes your reality. This is why change doesn't start with action. It starts with narrative. You can shift your habits, redesign your schedule, build new routines. But if the story underneath still says, "I'm not enough," nothing sticks. The universe doesn't respond to surface-level declarations. It reflects your subconscious assumptions. That's why two people with the same goal can take the same action, but one thrives while the other stays stuck. It's not what they do. It's what they believe about themselves while doing it. The Stoics understood this at the deepest level. Epictetus said, "You are not your circumstances. You are your judgments about your circumstances." Which means the most powerful transformation begins not outside you, but inside your inner commentary. What story are you repeating about yourself? Is it shaped by old wounds? By failures you never questioned? By someone else's opinion that became your self-image? Until you rewrite that internal script, you'll keep recreating the same external scenes. Most people think they're reacting to reality, but they're reacting to a reality filtered through their outdated beliefs. They say, "I always get overlooked," and life complies. They whisper, "I don't deserve better," and situations mirror it. It's not fate, it's programming. You're not stuck because of what happened. You're stuck because of what you decided it meant. And the Stoic path demands you reclaim that decision. This is the work no one sees. The inner work, the rewiring, the conscious choice to stop repeating stories that no longer serve you. The story that says love always leaves. The story that says money is hard to keep. The story that says you're too old, too late, too broken. These aren't facts, they're habits, and like any habit, they can be replaced. Start by writing your current story down. Be honest. What do you say to yourself when no one's watching? What's the voice in your head when things go wrong? That's your blueprint. Don't judge it. Just expose it. Bring it to the surface. Then ask, who wrote this version of me? Was it fear? Was it childhood? Was it failure? And is it still true now? Once you see the lie, you can rewrite the line. Not with fake positivity, but with presence, with new proof, with deliberate repetition. That's not delusion. That's reprogramming. That's manifestation at the root, changing who you are, not just what you want. And when that inner script changes, everything else follows. You speak differently. You move with quiet confidence. You stop chasing validation. You start broadcasting truth. And the universe, being a perfect mirror, responds. So don't just set new goals. Build a new identity, not from scratch, but from memory. The real you already exists beneath the layers of self-doubt. Your job is to uncover him, live from him, and let the story of "I'm already enough" guide your next chapter. Because the most powerful shift you'll ever make doesn't require a new plan. It requires a new narrator. One who doesn't just survive life, but creates it. Sentence by sentence, decision by decision, day by day. When nothing works, the solution isn't in trying harder. It's in becoming quieter, more aware, and deeply aligned. You've seen it now. Struggle only reinforces separation. Desperation signals lack. But when you shift your inner state, when your energy aligns with what you seek, the universe has no choice but to respond. This isn't about shortcuts, it's about clarity, about learning to live from the inside out. Each part of this journey, the awareness of your frequency, the mastery of feeling over words, the stillness beneath effort, the detachment from outcome, and the stories you tell yourself, these are not random ideas. They are practices. Daily disciplines. Acts of presence. The Stoics didn't speak to inspire. They spoke to train the mind, to sharpen it, to free it. What you've heard today isn't just philosophy, it's a way of living. It asks you to notice what you broadcast before you try to attract, to pause before you push, to ask not "how do I get what I want," but "who must I become to receive it without resistance?" And that starts now, not someday, not when things calm down. Start with 10 minutes of stillness. Start by rewriting one line of your inner story. Start by asking yourself, what am I practicing right now, faith or fear? Let this be your new practice. Not more effort, but more alignment. Not more noise, but deeper presence. Over time, your energy will speak before you do, and reality will listen. And if this message reached you at the right time, I invite you to share your story below. What patterns are you breaking? What shifts are beginning within you? Your words may help someone else reclaim their own inner power. Because like you, they're not alone. They're simply remembering.